G'day guys, JB here. First official video on JB's NBA on my Facebook page. Figure I'd stop spamming everyone on my own personal Facebook page. Nonetheless, my Twitter and my YouTube will still be kept up. But welcome. First video, as promised, was going to do some conference and division predictions. I'm going to start with my division predictions. And I'm actually going to start with the Atlantic division and going to go through there. Not much movement happening around at the moment. A few trade rumours. And personnel switch is supposed to be happening in the next few days, within the coming weeks before the season. As I record this, it's the 25th of September 2019, and it is about 3 o'clock Australian Eastern Time. So whether things change between now or then is another question, but again, we'll see what happens. But nonetheless, we'll start off with my Atlantic Division preview for this year. We'll start with Philadelphia, and again, I'm just going to run through the rosters, quick comments, see how they go, and go from there. So start with Philadelphia. I think their best five lineup at the moment is going to be Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid, along with Al Horford. There, to me, are going to be the best five they can get. Not so much depth on the bench there. Trey Burke, James Ennis, notable there. Jonah Bolder, Kylo Quinn, a little bit of depth as well, along with Mike Scott, Raul Neto, Shake Milton, and Matisse Thybulle. Again, this is all rosters based on the 25th of September, and having gone through roughly who's on the salary cap and etc. there. So I can see them going, 6, 7, potentially 8 deep. They have a really elite, top-heavy team there. Again, Simmons, an all-star point guard, Tobias Harris, an all-star small forward, and you got Horford and Embiid, two capable all-star centres and big men there. Trey Burke able to come off the bench. James Ennis can provide a little bit of a spark. Managed to secure a contract extension with them. And you've obviously got Jonah Bolder, who started to develop a little bit, played in the Australian national team, and Kylo Quinn as well, another player who's capable. But again, really elite at the top. I just don't know whether their bench will be able to hold up. Again, chemistry issues, you might be able to ask the question of. You do have the question of whether it's going to work out for someone, a team that did have Jimmy Butler, and he was probably causing some issues as well. Joel Embiid, going to want to really work really hard there, a guy who potentially could be an MVP in the league. Going to need to work on his defense there, and again, struggling to shoot over 50% was a real issue for him as well last year. And then Ben Simmons, if he can hit a jump shot, that'd be awesome. Then we go over to Brooklyn. In Brooklyn at the moment, their starting lineup is a little hampered, obviously, with the suspension of Wilson Chandler for PEDs, and Kevin Durant out injured. Could potentially see him. Don't reckon we will, though. But they've got a pretty decent lineup themselves. Kyrie Irving, Joe Harris, Caris LeVert, Taurean Prince, Jarrett Allen would be pretty close to their opening starting five. And then you go 3 deep with Spencer Dinwiddie, DeAndre Jordan, Garrett Temple. You have Rodions Kurocs, David Nwaba, Theo Pinson, Zanan Musa, Nicholas Claxton as well, rounding out the lineup, as well as Wilson Chandler and Kevin Durant. I mean, they're arguably have the best depth in the entire conference of the Eastern Conference there. I mean, if you go Irving, Harris, LeVert, Prince, Allen, Dinwiddie, Jordan, Temple, Chandler, and Durant when they're back, I mean, this is a side that can run 10 deep legitimately and really push. I mean, you've got the leadership there of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, which at times is questioned. Kyrie Irving really having a lot of questions asked of him after some performances in Boston, but nonetheless, Durant, another player as well, who's not necessarily, let's say, highlighted himself on social media over the off-season as well. But he's injured. Again, he probably won't play this season. If he does, it'll be very limited towards the end and the back half there as well. So, again, a capable side, as I mentioned, arguably the best depth in the entire conference, but lacking, can at times be lacking depth and elite leadership for the simple fact that injuries will play a problem. Kyrie Irving can be questionable as a leader sometimes. I don't think Boston really helped his case as one of the elite point guards in the league. Again, Kevin Durant, while a capable scorer, a capable player, does he really want to lead? A lot of those other guys are really capable players as well. I mean, Joe Harris, a sharpshooting guard. Caris LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie really proved themselves. Taurean Prince, a capable forward. Jarrett Allen and Garrett Temple, great players, or good players as well. Wilson Chandler, a good player as well. But it's going to be interesting to see how that lineup mixes. Again, they do run 15 deep as a roster pretty much and can run up to 10 deep on game night, so it'll be very interesting as well. As we go over to Toronto, again, everyone knows the big loss there in Kawhi Leonard. But they're still a reasonable team. Their best five, I think they can put on the floor. Kyle Lowry, Norman Powell, Pascal Siakam, Serge Ibaka, and Marc Gasol. And a bit of depth coming off the bench as well with your Fred VanVleets, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, and OG Anunoby. So it's going to be interesting to see how they run there. They got a few other pieces as well. Stanley Johnson, Patrick McCaw, Cameron Payne, Malcolm Miller, Chris Boucher, Justin Middleton, and Dwan Hernandez rounding out that roster there. Again, that's their 15-man roster going off of what their salary looks like and what their roster looks like. Again, that's a side there that can run 8 deep. There's no doubt about it. Losing Kawhi Leonard's massive. I mean, finals MVP at 2 teams in 2 different conferences. I mean, the guy's pretty much a top 50 player all time, 2 defensive players of the year as well, building up a heck of a resume there. Kawhi Leonard, nonetheless, he's no longer on this Toronto team, and it's very interesting to see how they're going to work. Kyle Lowry, capable all-star defender, point guard, I should say. Defenders in Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol. Fred VanVleet coming off the bench. I think he's in line for a Six-Man of the Year award if he can really up his game and continue to play like he did in the finals. Pascal Siakam needs now to take that next step. He showed hints of it in the finals. Anunoby coming back as well. He's going to be big. He's a good defender for them. So, capable team. It'll be interesting to see how they go. Again, major loss in Kawhi Leonard, but the quality list is still there and a little bit. There's still some defensive strength. So, I mean, those 3 teams, as I mentioned, Toronto, Philadelphia, and Brooklyn, I would expect them to be the 3 teams in the Atlantic Division to make the playoffs. We head over to Boston, and Boston is going to be a very interesting team this year. Best 5, I think I can see them putting on the floor is Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Daniel Theus, and Enes Kanter. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gordon Hayward and Marcus Smart rotate through there as well. But I really think that's almost as far as where Boston can go. I mean, you have Semi Ojeleye, you have Brad Wanamaker, you have Demetrius Jackson, you have Gershon Yabusele, you have Robert Williams, you have Romeo Langford, Grant Williams, Carson Edwards, and Javonte Green coming in as well. The big factor there is Kemba Walker coming into this side, having left Charlotte in the off-season, essentially replacing Terry Rozier, who, came in, has left that team as well. But Kyrie Irving and Rozier leaving really takes away a lot of depth at your point guard and your guard position there as well. And the key thing here for Kemba Walker is that can he help bring that young core up and get them back to the playoffs. Boston, to me, are a 50-50 playoff team simply because of a lack of depth and a lack of consistency last year. They're going to have to prove themselves. I mean, a lot of these young guys are going to have to start stepping up and really making more plays. They're missing Morris as well this season, who was probably their best playoff contributor last year. Al Horford gone as well. So for this side to not make the playoffs won't be a shock. I think they potentially could. They could sneak an 8th seed being in the East. But again, everything's really opened up with the departure of Kawhi Leonard and a lot of shifting and moving going on in the Eastern Conference. But to me, Boston are a 50-50 shot. They can, they can't. If they don't, I won't be shocked. If they do make it, I don't see them getting any higher than an 8th seed. Again, Kemba replaces Kyrie, but Rozier goes out of this side. Morris goes out of this side. Kyrie, Rozier, Morris, and Horford, massive. I mean, at one point there, potentially 4 of your starting 5 heading out of your lineup. So, going to be a big loss for them. Boston a 50-50 side, and I don't see them doing too much this year. Finally, wrapping up the Atlantic Division, I've got the New York Knicks. Best start there would be Dennis Smith Jr., Reggie Bullock, Marcus Morris, Julius Randle, and Bobby Portis. You've got RJ Barrett. He'll be coming off the pine, no doubt. Although being a high draft pick could seem in the start, I just don't see it with the rotations and the ability that New York have, just with mild experience as well. And Elfrid Payton as well, the other player there. But again, it's not really much more going forward for the Knicks. Taj Gibson, okay, if you'd have said Taj Gibson's coming off the pine 6-7 years ago, great, but at this point, having been underutilised in his athleticism, should have been starting with the Bulls back in the day, and having bounced around the league, I wouldn't be surprised to see Gibson not be in the league too much longer, just through lack of interest. Wayne Ellington, Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, basically, it's going to be Ntilikina. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. Kevin Knox, as I mentioned, Alonzo Tria, Damian Dotson, Mitchell Robinson, and Ignas Brazdeikis, I think it is. Ignas Brazdeikis. Again, it's New York. What have they done? They haven't done much in the last... Well, they made the finals in 99. They made the conference finals in 2000. They made the playoffs with Melo. really haven't done much since Patrick Ewing, if we're going to be honest about bad contracts, bad management, bad coaching, you name it, they've had it. Injuries as well, a big factor. But I don't see New York going anywhere. Essentially a young squad looking to make a stand and slowly bring New York back again. But I mean, New York's almost in a third or fourth rebuild phase in the last 20 years. And I mean, realistically, you want it, if you blow everything up and build it back together, 5 years to get, 4 or 5 years to get to the playoffs and start making runs is great. But all they constantly do is keep blowing it up and wasting talent. Again, I don't see them going much deeper than their seven. The seven that I mentioned there in Smith Jr., Bullock, Marcus Morris, Julius Randle, Bobby Portis, Alfred Payton, and RJ Barrett. Again, trades and that could happen. Julius Randle's probably going to be their best player. RJ Barrett's going to be very interesting to see how he develops there. But again, a lot of good some young talent, some capable talent. I just don't see them doing anything. It's very hard to try and stay optimistic about a side that has essentially done nothing for the better part of 20 years as a franchise and really hasn't been relevant for 25, 26 years. It's not even to take a shot at Knicks fans or New York itself. It's just how it is. It's been poor management, poor coach. They brought everyone in and no one's done a thing. So unfortunately, that's just how it has to be. So again, to go over my final thing for my final predictions essentially and preview for the Atlantic Division for the 2019-2020 season, I'd probably have Brooklyn edging it out just ahead of Philadelphia and Toronto as far as leading their division. So Toronto back to middle of the pack. Philadelphia, again, have that capability to finish top of the division, but I just don't know whether that's going to work. I just feel there's a bit of a Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid clash there. Tobias Harris and Al Horford, I think, are going to be consistent. Trey Burke coming off the bench and a little bit of depth there, but I mean, I don't think they're going to be good enough to go past a Brooklyn lineup that at worst will be, after 30 games, 9 men deep, providing there's no injuries. And I think Brooklyn's nearly a favourite to actually take out the East, but it'll be interesting to see how they compete with other sides. Toronto, they'll finish middle of the pack. Again, if Philadelphia don't communicate well, we could see them drop. I don't think they've got as much depth as people think. Boston might make it. If they don't, no shock. And I don't expect New York to be anywhere exciting with some of their young talent, but I don't expect them to get anywhere. This is a franchise going through their 4th or 5th rebuild in basically 20 years with no success in any of them. Anyway, guys, that's been me. Thank you very much for tuning in. Again, like the Facebook page, JB's NBA. Follow the link to my YouTube channel where I've got some other stuff as well. I'll be cross-promoting across all of it. Easy way to do it. Hit me up on Twitter, Justin_G_Bryan. You can find me there as well. And, yeah, hopefully a few more divisional breakdowns and a few more preseason videos coming up. And then I'll try and get a bit of a preview video to what to expect during the season. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I'm out.